This just dropped. A lot of people are talking about it. Elon Musk's shadow rule. How the US government came to rely on the tech billionaire and is now struggling to rein him in. There are a couple of quotes that are being posted by Mehdi Hassan, though, that I'd like to take a look at. He's promoting it heavily, which is good. I think Mehdi Hassan generally has pretty agreeable positions, you know? One Pentagon spokesman said he was keeping Musk apprised of my inquiries about his role in Ukraine and would grant an interview with an official about the matter only with Musk's permission. We talk to you if Elon wants us to, he told me. The article is about how the government has come to rely on Elon Musk. And Starlink, it seems, being a large part of it, but for other reasons as well. There is only one thing worse than a government monopoly, and that is a private monopoly that the government is dependent upon, Bridenstine said. I do worry that we have put all of our eggs in one basket, and it's the SpaceX basket. Justine wrote that their relationship eventually buckled under the weight of Musk's obsession with work and his controlling tendencies, which began with him insisting, as they danced at their wedding, quote, I am the alpha in this relationship. I remember that. That's his ex-wife, yeah, where he was telling his wife that he is the alpha. Truly fantastic stuff. If you don't have time to read the excellent New Yorker piece on Musk, here's the cliff notes. Elon cut off Starlink during a battle because he was afraid of hurting Russian troops and wanted to placate Putin, whom he very much admires and wants to help. He's a traitor. We kind of knew that to an extent. I wonder how severe, like, the behind-the-scenes details are. Initially, Musk showed unreserved support for the Ukrainian cause, responding encouragingly as Mikhailo Fedorov, the Ukrainian Minister for Digital Transformation, tweeted pictures of equipment in the field. But as the war ground on, SpaceX began to balk at the cost. We are not in a position to further donate terminals to Ukraine or fund the existing terminals for an indefinite period of time, SpaceX's director of government sales told the Pentagon in a letter last September. CNBC recently valued SpaceX at nearly $150 billion. Forbes estimated Musk's personal net worth at $220 billion, making him the world's richest man. Musk was growing increasingly uneasy with the fact that his tech was being used for warfare. That month, at a conference in Aspen attended by business and political figures, Musk even appeared to express support for Vladimir Putin. Quote, he was on stage and he said, we should be negotiating. Putin wants peace. We should be negotiating peace with Putin. Reid Hoffman, who helped start PayPal with Musk, recalled. Musk seemed, he said, to have, quote, bought what Putin was selling, hook, line, and sinker. Do you guys remember when Musk was tweeting about how Ukraine should seek peace with Putin, and he referred to Ukraine as Lenin's mistake, something that he would never have said on his own and 100% was just repeating from a propaganda piece that he'd gotten from Russia to sound smart? Probably not even smart enough to realize that it just made him sound like a Russian stooge, because no non-Russian would ever refer to Ukraine as Lenin's mistake. Oh, Khrushchev's mistake. Lenin also did a thing, but Khrushchev's mistake, yeah. No non-Russian would ever say that for any reason. Literally, no non-Russian, no Westerner would ever say Khrushchev's mistake, just offhandedly, you know? Why doesn't the government simply take SpaceX, Starlink, and Twitter from Musk? Well, that's the thing. And this is the issue here, guys. You know, this is what happens when you rely on corporations, man. Most corporations function mostly sanely. Not all the time, of course, but for instance, we rely very heavily on Raytheon, on Boeing, you know, on our defense companies. And not to say those companies aren't staffed by psychos, I'm sure they are, but they function more or less as expected. Elon Musk, however, is a psycho and an idiot. And as a product of this, he is not a reliable corporate, you know, vehicle. He's not a good channel of our interests. And as a product of that, he has shifted not only into being like oppositional, but also to being a national security threat. A week later, Musk tweeted a proposal for his own peace plans, which called for new referendums to redraw the borders of Ukraine and granted Russia control of Crimea, the semi-autonomous peninsula recognized by most nations, including the U.S., as Ukrainian territory. In later tweets, Musk portrayed as inevitable an outcome favoring Russia and attached maps highlighting East Ukrainian territories, some of which he argued prefer Russia. Not true. Musk also polled his Twitter followers about the plan. Millions responded, with about 60% rejecting the proposal. Zelensky, Ukraine's president, tweeted his own poll, asking users whether they preferred the Elon Musk who supported Ukraine or the one who now seemed to back Russia. The former one, though Zelensky's poll had a small turnout, Musk's has more than 20 times as many followers. Yes, of course. Though recently an expose found that many of Musk's followers are bots, which of course they are, obviously. He's a insecure, image-obsessed lunatic who completely controls the platform Like, yeah, obviously he would bot his own followers. He can do so effortlessly. By then, Musk's sympathies appeared to be manifesting on the battlefield. One day, Ukrainian forces advancing into contested areas in the south found themselves suddenly unable to communicate. We were very close to the front line, Mikola, the signal corps soldier, told me. We crossed this border and Starlink stopped working. The consequences were immediate. Communications became dead, units were isolated. When you're on offense, especially for commanders, you need a constant stream of information from battalions. Commanders had to drive to the battlefield to be in radio range, risking themselves, Mikola said. It was chaos. Ukrainian expats who had raised funds for the Starlink units began receiving frantic calls. The tech executive recalls a Ukrainian military official telling him, "We need Elon now." "How now?" he replied. "Like now," the official said. "People are dying." Another Ukrainian involved told me that he was, quote, awoken by a dozen calls saying they'd lost connectivity and had to retreat, end quote. The Financial Times reported the outages affected units in Kherson, Zaporizhia, Kharkiv, Donetsk, and Luhansk. American and Ukrainian officials told me they believed SpaceX had cut the connectivity via geofencing, cordoning off areas of access. The senior defense official said, quote, "We had a whole series of meetings internal to the department to try to figure out what we could do about this." Musk's singular role presented unfamiliar challenges, as did the government's role as intermediary. It wasn't like we could hold him in breach of contract or something, the official continued. The Pentagon would need to reach a contractual arrangement with SpaceX so that, at the very least, Musk, quote, couldn't wake up one morning and just decide like he didn't want to do this anymore. Cal added, "It was kind of a way for us to lock in services across Ukraine. It could at least prevent Musk from turning off the switch altogether." Typically, such a negotiation would be handled by the Pentagon's acquisitions department. But Musk had become more than just a vendor like Boeing, Lockheed, or other defense industry behemoths. On the phone with Musk from Paris, call was deferential. According to unclassified talking points for the call, he thanked Musk for his efforts in Ukraine, acknowledged the steep costs he'd incurred, and pleaded for even a few weeks to devise a contract. "If you cut this off, it doesn't end the war," Call recalled telling Musk. Isn't it sickening to see members of our government pleading with Musk? Of all the undeserving pieces of shit to have that kind of power. Keep in mind that a lot of this is probably for the same reason that people bought into Musk to begin with, or why people bought NFTs or whatever. They buy into the hype. A lot of people see Musk and SpaceX as this like non-governmental vehicle for very specific satellite technology. And they're like, oh shit, yeah, cool. Tony Stark, whoa. They buy into the same hype as anyone, you know? But now they're in a position where they rely on him for some stuff, and they know that he's an egotistical lunatic, so they have to directly appeal to him rather than, like, if the U.S. government wanted to deal with Boeing or Lockheed or whatever, they wouldn't be talking with the owner of Lockheed. The Pentagon doesn't call the owner of Lockheed and go like, hey, can we like work something out? Lockheed is a giant company with huge bureaucratic networks of people that they would work with. They have contacts, direct liaisons that they would negotiate and work through. It wouldn't be about a cult of personality. It wouldn't be about appeasing one guy. But with Elon, it is one guy. They don't deal with SpaceX. They deal with Elon. If they want to like get SpaceX, they have to deal with Elon. Musk wasn't immediately convinced. Quote, "My inference was that he was getting nervous that Starlink's involvement was increasingly seen in Russia as enabling the Ukrainian war effort." It is. It is. That's what you're doing. When you provide Starlink to allow Ukrainians to communicate on the front lines, that is what you're doing. You are enabling the Ukrainian war effort, and it's good. It's good that you do that. And was looking for a way to placate Russian concerns. Why? That's an interesting question. Why? Russia's economy is tiny. Their exports are all raw resources. Why would Musk, the guy who controls Twitter, Tesla, sort of, and SpaceX, the boring company, whatever, why would he give a shit about the approval of the Kremlin? Well, my argument is that fascism is international, that Musk, being stupid and easily susceptible, has been sort of groomed into a set of ideologies that allow him to feel like he's a big special boy. Pro-democracy advocates will not suck Elon off for being pro-democracy, but fascists will suck Elon off for being fascist. And because he's insecure, just like Trump, he will gravitate towards the ideology that has the most room for, a lunatic spokesperson, for a cult of personality, which is what he wants to be at the center of. To the dismay of Pentagon officials, Musk volunteered that he had spoken with Putin personally. Another individual told me Musk had made the same assertion in the weeks before he tweeted his pro-Russia peace plan, and had said that his consultations with the Kremlin were regular. Musk later denied having spoken with Putin about Ukraine. Yeah, he realized this was optically bad and backpedaled, but he was lying. On the phone, Musk said that he was looking at his laptop and could see, quote, the entire war unfolding through a map of Starlink activity. That's great. That's great, dude. I love this 40 IQ troglodyte having access to a geostat network that shows the entire, like, current battle lines and communication lines in Ukraine. You realize that from SpaceX, he could literally see and give away the positions of commanding officers, right? He has access to the lines and to the mapped lines of every line of communication using Starlink. He could literally just, like, provide coordinates. He knows more about Ukrainians' like line of communications and positions than the Ukrainian officers would. He would have access to faster information than them. Quote, this was like 3 minutes before he said, well, I had this great... If it later comes out that Elon supplied information to the Russian military, it would not surprise me. If it was found out at some point, like, oh yeah, with the Starlink satellite network gives him access to this information, and he like tried to like show it off to Russians or whatever, like or give them info. Treason? It wouldn't even be treason. America's not at war with Russia. It wouldn't be treason. Legally, it's not treason. It is a threat to national security, but it is not treason. American citizens are just as legally allowed to go and help Russia as they are to go and help Ukraine. Prison for being a goofball? I do think he could go to jail. Death penalty for being a goofball. Yeah. Espionage, though? It really depends. That would have to be argued in court. Make being cringe illegal and lock him up. After a 15-minute call, Musk agreed to give the Pentagon more time. He also, after public blowback and with evident annoyance, walked back his threats to cut off service. Quote, the hell with it, he tweeted. Even though Starlink is still losing money and other companies are getting billions of taxpayer dollars, we'll just keep funding the Ukrainian government for free. This June, the Department of Defense announced that it had reached a deal with SpaceX. What a baby. Imagine whining about this publicly. Jesus Christ. The meddling of oligarchs and other moneyed interests in the fate of nations is not new. During the First World War, J.P. Morgan lent vast sums to the Allied powers. Afterward, John D. Rockefeller Jr. poured money into the fledgling League of Nations. The investor George Soros's Open Society Foundations underwrote civil society reform in post-Soviet Europe, and the casino mogul Sheldon Adelson funded right-wing media in Israel as part of his support for Benjamin Netanyahu. Oh, fun point on this, by the way. This one guy single-handedly shifted Israel like 5 to 6 points fascist. His promotion of his like right-wing newspaper literally like just made Israel significantly worse. He had the money to do it. Like it would be the equivalent of like us knowing that Biden was about to win 52 to 48 and then like you wake up one day and Trump won by like 58-42 or something. Like just some insane like, oh yeah, well one billionaire didn't like democracy, so, he just completely funded. How can one person get that much power? Capitalism, the overaccumulation of wealth in a system where wealth allows you to buy political influence, which billionaires like democracy. Very few of them. But Musk's influence is more brazen and expansive. There's little precedent for civilians becoming the arbiter of a war between nations in such a granular way, or for the degree of dependency the U.S. now has on Musk in a variety of fields, from the future of energy and transportation to the exploration of space. It's pathetic, dude. We defunded NASA, and now we have this lunatic Afrikaner fascist with a personality disorder that we have to rely on. First of all, he offers nothing in the future of energy, so shut the fuck up, okay? You guys realize that with the U.S. government funding that it is capable of, like, we could supplant everything Musk does in no time at all. Energy, transportation, exploration of space, put federal funding towards better batteries and better electric vehicles and better, like, rockets, and we will, with less money and less time, do more than he ever could. But we defunded NASA. Sorry, guys. We have to rely on him now. SpaceX is currently the sole means by which NASA transports crew from U.S. soil into space, a situation that will persist for at least another year. The government's plan to move the auto industry towards electric cars. No, electric cars are bad. So I know what the article is in summary, though, and the article is a list of all the ways that Elon Musk has undue, unchecked, unaccountable power in the US government because he's relied upon after the government programs that would have handled his work have been defunded. How he has inserted himself as a crutch in so many places now, and he's dealt with directly rather than through this like broader, bureaucracy that he proceeds over or presides over. Is there any way out of this? Are we doomed to deal with Musk having this level of influence forever? Well, no, he's not. He's not stable enough to maintain it forever. That's one of the things that benefits us, right? Like Elon Musk is too stupid, self-centered, egotistical, and insecure to maintain this, like to be like a shadow operative. Well, hopefully, to some of the people in the administrative state who, who bristle at having to deal with Elon Musk directly like this, they understand how important it is they not rely on billionaires in the future.